Welcome to Storytime Hub, the place where stories come alive. Here, you'll find everything from heart-racing horror and mysterious thrillers to magical adventures and emotional tales. If you love stories that make you feel, imagine, and escape, you're in the right hub. So sit back, relax, and let the story begin. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Storytime Hub for more amazing tales every day. Ethan swore it would save them an hour, maybe more. A back road through the pines, barely marked on the map. Claire had argued she always did, but Ethan's confidence usually won. And so the four of them drove deeper into the forest, the paved road giving way to gravel, then dirt, then nothing but a trail swallowed by trees. "Nice one, genius," Claire muttered, arms crossed in the passenger seat. Her voice carried that razor edge Ethan both hated and craved. "It'll be fine," he said, gripping the wheel tighter. "We've got GPS. Worst case, we hike a bit." In the back seat, Sophie sat pressed against the window, earbuds in, pretending she couldn't hear them argue. Mark sprawled beside her, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Don't sweat it," Mark said, pulling a flask from his backpack. "We've got booze, we've got weed, we've got a whole weekend with no rules. Who cares if we're lost?" Claire snatched the flask from his hand. "You're an idiot." She took a swig anyway. The road ended in a clearing, if you could call it that. The car bumped to a stop, headlights catching a crude wooden sign nailed to a tree. Most of the letters were worn away, but one word was clear: hollow. "Perfect," Ethan muttered. He killed the engine. The silence of the forest pressed in instantly, thick and absolute. They unpacked in the dark, fumbling with the tents. The night air was colder than expected, their breath misting in the glow of the campfire once Ethan finally coaxed it alive. Shadows leapt high against the trees, dancing in unnatural shapes. Mark raised a beer, grinning. "To freedom." "To stupidity," Claire shot back. Sophie said nothing. She sat close to the fire, eyes wide, scanning the black woods beyond the light. "Relax, Soph," Mark teased. "Big bad wolves aren't real. Unless you count me." He howled, laughing at his own joke. Sophie didn't laugh. She whispered, barely audible, "The forest is wrong." They all looked at her. "What do you mean?" Ethan asked. She hugged her knees tighter. "It's too quiet." No crickets, no wind, just watching. Claire snorted. "She's spooked because it's dark." "Jesus, Sophie, you read too many creepypastas." But Ethan felt it too. The way the fire seemed to be the only sound crackling against the weight of silence. The woods swallowed their voices. Even the shadows didn't move unless the fire forced them. Then came the whistle, low, drawn out, almost human. It drifted through the trees, echoing unnaturally, circling them. Mark froze mid-sip. "Please, tell me one of you did that." No one answered. The whistle came again, this time closer. Claire stood abruptly, her face pale. "Okay, not funny?" "Who's there?" Silence. Ethan grabbed the hatchet he'd brought for chopping wood, holding it like a weapon. His chest tightened with a primal fear he couldn't shake. "Stay by the fire," he said. But Mark, drunk on bravado, grabbed a flashlight. "It's some hikers screwing with us." "Watch this." He walked toward the tree line, light cutting into the dark. "Hey, asshole," he yelled. "You think this is funny?" The forest answered with another whistle, a perfect imitation of his words, twisted into a tune. Mark stopped dead. The beam shook in his hand. Then the whistle laughed. Not human, too sharp, too long. "Mark!" Ethan barked. "Get back here!" Mark stumbled backward, But before he could retreat, something moved just beyond the light. Tall, thin, wrong. It stood between the trees, watching. Mark's voice cracked. "What the fuck is that?" The thing tilted its head, the motion jerky, unnatural. Then slowly, it raised a long, crooked hand and waved. Mark screamed. The flashlight clattered to the ground. The beam rolled, slicing across twisted bark and empty air. When Ethan lunged forward to drag him back, there was nothing there, no figure, just darkness. But the whistle came again, from behind them. Sophie finally spoke, her voice flat and cold. "I told you, the forest doesn't want us here." The fire sputtered, sparks leaping high, and in that instant, Ethan realized something he couldn't say out loud. The forest wasn't empty. It was waiting. Mark didn't sleep that night. None of them did. After the whistle, after the thing in the trees, they had all huddled closer to the fire like children. Ethan gripped the hatchet so tightly his knuckles were white. Claire tried to mask her fear with sarcasm, but her hands trembled each time she reached for her beer. Sophie hadn't said a word. She just stared into the dark, wide-eyed, like a rabbit waiting for the hawk to dive. Hours passed. The fire sank to embers, and still, the forest remained unnaturally silent. When dawn finally broke, it felt like the world exhaled. Birds began to chirp again. A squirrel darted across the clearing. The woods looked ordinary, harmless, but the memory of the whistle clung to them. "Okay," Ethan said, standing and stretching his stiff limbs. "We're leaving." "Pack up," Mark scoffed. His voice was hoarse. "Seriously? One creepy noise and we bail? We came out here to get away, to be free." "Free from what?" Claire snapped. "You nearly pissed yourself last night." "Yeah, and you didn't?" Mark shot back. Ethan raised his voice. "Enough. We're not staying here. Something's wrong with this forest." But when they piled their gear into the car, Ethan's gut dropped. The tires were shredded, deep gashes carved through the rubber, too clean, too precise for rocks or nails. Someone or something had cut them. Claire cursed, kicking the useless tire. "Great, just great. We're screwed." Ethan's jaw tightened. "We'll hike out. GPS says the nearest road's 10 miles south. We can make it." Mark groaned. 10 miles? With all our shit in this heat? "Do you have a better idea?" Ethan snapped. Mark didn't answer. They set off, leaving the dead car behind. Ethan carried the hatchet. Mark hauled the tent bag. Claire slung the food pack over her shoulder, muttering under her breath about how this was so typical. Sophie carried nothing but her small notebook, clutched tight against her chest. The forest seemed endless. Pines towered above, blotting out the sun. The trail twisted and narrowed until it was barely more than a deer path. The air grew heavier, thicker, as though the woods themselves were closing in. By noon, tempers flared. "This is bullshit," Mark growled. Sweat plastered his shirt to his skin. "We're lost." "Admit it." "We're not lost," Ethan said through gritted teeth. Claire snorted. "Sure, Captain GPS. You led us into this mess and now you're leading us in circles." "Shut up, Claire." "No, seriously," she pressed, stepping in front of him. "You always think you know best." Always. And everyone else just has to follow. Ethan's jaw worked. He wanted to yell. He wanted to shove her aside. Instead, he said nothing. But Sophie spoke. Soft, almost too soft to hear. "He's right." They all turned. Sophie's eyes were downcast. "We're not lost." "The forest is—" "What the hell does that mean?" Mark snapped. She hugged her notebook tighter. "It's shifting. Changing. It doesn't want us out." Claire threw up her hands. Fantastic. The quiet one's gone full Blair Witch. But Ethan's skin prickled. He wanted to dismiss it too, but something in Sophie's tone, calm, resigned, unnerved him more than her words. They pressed on. By evening, they were exhausted. The trail had vanished entirely, leaving them wandering through thick underbrush. No road, no clearing, just endless trees. "Camp here," Ethan said finally. They set up the tents as the sun dipped low. The air turned cold fast, shadows stretching long across the forest floor. Mark lit a small fire. His hands shook. Claire pulled the flask from his bag, taking a long swig before passing it to Sophie. Sophie didn't drink. She just sat there, scribbling in her notebook by the firelight. Ethan leaned closer. "What are you writing?" She didn't look up. "Names." He frowned. "Whose?" "Yours," she whispered. "All of ours." Ethan's skin crawled. He didn't ask again. That night, the whistle returned. It started faint, drifting between the trees like smoke, then louder, circling them, weaving a melody too deliberate to be wind. Mark cursed, grabbing a burning stick from the fire and waving it at the dark. "Come out, you bastard! You think you can scare us?" "Stop!" Sophie hissed. For the first time, her voice was sharp, commanding. "Don't answer it." The whistle grew louder, mimicking Mark's curse word for word, twisted into a tune. Then it changed. It began to say their names, one by one. "Ethan, Claire, Mark, Sophie," Claire screamed, clapping her hands over her ears. "Make it stop! Make it stop!" Ethan's heart thundered. He held the hatchet like it could save them. But deep down, he knew it wouldn't. The whistle wasn't outside anymore. It was inside the fire. The flames flickered violently, shapes writhing in the smoke. For a split second, Ethan swore he saw faces in the embers, screaming silently. Then the fire blew out. Darkness swallowed them whole. The laughter of the whistle echoed through the night, then faded into the stillness. For a moment, there was only silence, thick, suffocating, endless. Mark cursed again, fumbling with his lighter to get the fire back. The spark flared, then died. His hands trembled so badly he could barely flick it. Ethan finally got the flame alive, feeding it dry twigs until the fire roared back. But even with the light, none of them felt safe. Claire sat with her knees pulled up, rocking slightly. Tears streaked her cheeks. "This is wrong. This place is wrong. We keep moving at first light," Ethan said. His voice was steady, but his insides felt hollow. "We can't stay here." Sophie finally looked up from her notebook. Her face was pale, her eyes too wide. "The forest doesn't care if it's day or night. It only cares when it's ready," Mark snapped at her. "Can you not say creepy shit right now? We're already losing it." Sophie didn't answer. She just closed the notebook slowly, as if sealing something inside. Morning. The four of them trudged deeper into the woods, their eyes sunken from lack of sleep. No one spoke much. Words felt dangerous, like they might wake something that was listening. By midday, they stumbled into a clearing. At its center stood a massive pine tree, larger than any they'd seen, its trunk thick as a house. Its bark was blackened as though charred by fire. Strange symbols were carved into the wood, spiraling upward like scars. But what made them stop cold was what hung from its branches. Bodies, at least a dozen. Some were little more than bones tangled in rope. Others were fresher, skin gray and sagging, eyes hollow but open. Their mouths were sewn shut with crude twine. Claire gagged, doubling over. Mark swore violently, backing away. Ethan felt his stomach twist into knots. But Sophie stepped forward. Her face was calm, reverent. "The whistling pine," she murmured. Ethan grabbed her arm. "What the hell are you talking about?" She finally met his eyes. "This is its heart. Every forest has one. The place where it begins, the place it feeds." Ethan shook her. "How do you know this?" She didn't answer. She just smiled faintly, like she'd been waiting for this moment all along. Mark was trembling. "I'm done. I'm fucking done. We need to turn around. Find the car. I don't care if the tires are gone. We run until we hit a road." But then one of the bodies moved. Its head jerked. Its neck cracked loudly. Slowly, it lifted its face toward them. The sewn mouth stretched. The skin tore. Blood dribbled down its chin. And then it whistled. A low, broken note that made the branches shiver. Claire screamed, bolting. She didn't care where she was running, only that it was away. "Claire, wait!" Ethan shouted. But she was gone, crashing into the undergrowth. Ethan turned back. Sophie hadn't moved. She was staring up at the hanging corpses, her expression unreadable. Mark tugged at Ethan's sleeve. "We have to go, now." The bodies began to sway in unison, like a grotesque choir. Their whistles joined together, rising and falling in an unnatural melody that crawled under the skin. And from the shadows beneath the massive pine, something shifted. A figure stepped forward. It was tall, impossibly thin, its skin stretched tight over bone. Its face was a hollow mask, no eyes, no mouth, just smooth, pale flesh. But from where the mouth should be came the whistle, clear and sharp. Ethan froze. His mind screamed at him to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The thing raised a long skeletal finger and pointed at Sophie. She didn't flinch. She only whispered, "I knew you'd come." The first death, they heard Claire's scream before they saw it. High-pitched, cut off abruptly. Mark charged after the sound, Ethan at his heels. Branches whipped against their faces as they barreled through the forest. They found her body slumped against a tree. Her throat was slit open, a deep gash carved from ear to ear. Blood soaked her shirt, pooling at her feet. But the wound wasn't clean. It was carved into a spiral pattern, twisting down her chest like the symbols on the tree. Mark gagged. "Jesus Christ!" Ethan dropped to his knees beside her. She was already gone, her eyes glassy, her lips still parted in a final scream. And then her body jerked. Her eyes snapped toward Ethan, and she whistled. The sound was wet, gurgling but unmistakable. Blood bubbled at her lips as the whistle poured from her broken throat. Mark screamed, stumbling back. "She's dead. She's fucking dead, Ethan." Ethan staggered to his feet, dragging Mark with him. "Run!" They didn't stop until their lungs burned. When they finally collapsed in another clearing, Sophie was already there, calm, waiting. Mark rounded on her, his face red with rage and terror. "What the fuck do you know? What aren't you telling us?" Sophie met his fury with eerie calm. "I told you. The forest chooses. It took Claire because she answered it. It'll take more if you don't listen." Ethan was shaking, his hand still sticky with Claire's blood. "Why do you know this?" Sophie smiled faintly, as if the answer was obvious. "Because I was chosen a long time ago." Mark's chest heaved as he pointed a trembling finger at Sophie. "You knew. From the start. You fucking knew." Sophie didn't deny it. She just sat cross-legged in the dirt, her notebook on her lap, like the chaos around her was none of her concern. Her voice was steady, almost soothing. "I told you not to answer it. Claire did, and now she belongs to the forest." Mark lunged at her, grabbing her by the shirt. Shut your creepy mouth. My best friend just bled out like a fucking pig and you're sitting there acting like you're—" Ethan pulled him back. "Mark, stop." But Sophie didn't even flinch. She smoothed her shirt, then opened her notebook. The pages were filled with names, dozens of them, written over and over, some crossed out, some smudged with dirt or blood. At the bottom, 4 fresh names: Ethan, Claire, Mark, Sophie. Only Claire's was crossed out. Mark froze when he saw it. "What the hell is this?" Sophie looked up at him, her expression unreadable. "It's the list. The forest keeps it. I just write it down. Don't you get it?" Mark shouted, voice breaking. "You're part of this. You brought us here." Ethan's throat tightened. A horrifying thought gnawed at him. Was Sophie luring them here the entire time? But before he could ask, the whistle returned. Low at first, then louder. Closer, Mark gripped Ethan's arm. "It's hunting us." Branches cracked. Something heavy moved through the trees. Then they saw it. The faceless figure from before gliding between the pines. Its limbs bent wrong, too long, its fingers dragging against the ground. It didn't walk. It drifted, and every time it stopped, it tilted its head back and let out that shrill, piercing whistle. Mark screamed, grabbed the hatchet from Ethan's belt, and charged. "Mark, no!" Ethan yelled, but it was too late. Mark swung with all his strength. The blade sank into the thing's side. It didn't bleed. It didn't even react. Instead, it wrapped its skeletal hand around Mark's wrist. Bones cracked like twigs. Mark screamed, dropping the hatchet. Then, with horrifying speed, the faceless thing bent low and pressed its smooth face against his. There was a sound like suction, like air being ripped from lungs. Mark's scream cut off abruptly. His body convulsed as if something was being pulled out of him. Ethan watched in horror as Mark's chest caved inward, his eyes rolling back, his lips trembling against the skin of the faceless creature. And then, with a sickening snap, the whistle came from Mark's mouth. His body went limp. The faceless figure dropped him like discarded trash. His empty eyes stared at the canopy above, lips twitching in a grotesque smile. Blood leaked from his nose, his ears. Ethan's stomach lurched. He wanted to help, but Mark was already gone. The faceless thing melted back into the forest, leaving Mark's broken corpse behind. The whistle echoed in the distance. The betrayal. Ethan stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a root. His voice cracked. "What the hell is happening?" Sophie rose slowly, brushing dirt from her jeans. She looked at Mark's body with no hint of shock, no tears. Just a faint nod, as if confirming something. Ethan stared at her. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" Her eyes softened. "It was always going to happen. The forest takes who it wants. Claire, Mark, maybe you, maybe me." He grabbed her by the shoulders, shaking her. "Stop talking like that. You're not some prophet. You're just Sophie. You're my friend. What the fuck are you hiding?" She finally looked him dead in the eye. And for the first time, Ethan saw something ancient in her gaze. Something that wasn't Sophie at all. "I told you," she whispered. "I was chosen." Ethan's blood ran cold. Sophie stepped closer, so close he could feel her breath. Her voice dropped to a whisper meant only for him. "It whispered to me when I was 12. In the woods behind my house. It's been with me ever since. Watching, waiting. I thought if I brought others, it would let me go." Ethan's stomach turned. You sacrificed us?" Her lip trembled. For a moment, the real Sophie flickered through. The scared girl who used to doodle in class, who laughed too hard at dumb jokes. Tears filled her eyes. I didn't want this. But it never stops, Ethan. The whistling every night. In my dreams, I thought if I gave it enough, it would finally be quiet. Ethan staggered back. You're sick. I'm desperate, she corrected, her voice breaking. The whistle sounded again, closer, urgent. Sophie grabbed his hand, squeezing it hard. Her palm was clammy, her grip shaking. Run with me, please. Maybe if we give it enough, it will let us live. You don't understand, Ethan. It doesn't stop until it takes what it wants. Her words twisted in his head. She was begging him to kill again, to let the forest feed. Ethan pulled his hand away. No, I'm not like you. For the first time, Sophie's face hardened, cold, empty. Then you'll die like them. The ritual, by nightfall, Ethan was alone. He had run until his legs gave out, then collapsed in the dirt. The forest felt endless, stretching on forever. Every direction looked the same. But when he lifted his head, he saw the whistling pine again. The massive blackened tree, the hanging bodies, the symbols carved deep. It was waiting for him. At the base of the tree, Sophie stood barefoot, her notebook open, her hair wild. Her shirt was streaked with blood, marks, Claire's, maybe her own. She smiled when she saw him. You came back, she said softly, almost lovingly. Ethan's chest heaved. I didn't have a choice. No one does, she replied. The faceless thing emerged from the shadows, gliding forward like a puppet on invisible strings. It stopped beside Sophie, towering over her. She didn't flinch. She tilted her head as if listening to its soundless voice. Then she turned to Ethan. It says, one must stay, she whispered. One must carry the whistle forward. The forest always needs a voice. Her eyes shimmered with something like hope. It should be you, Ethan. It likes you. Ethan's skin crawled. He stumbled back, shaking his head violently. No, fuck no, I'm not. The faceless thing tilted its head. The whistle began again, this time piercing, sharp enough to make his ears bleed. He dropped to his knees, clutching his skull. Sophie knelt beside him, stroking his hair like a mother comforting a child. Shh. Don't fight it. It's easier if you don't fight. He could barely hear her over the shriek. His vision blurred, the trees spinning, the bodies above swayed, their sewn-mouthed, straining against the twine. And for a split second, he heard it inside his head. A voice, the forest's voice. Stay! Become whistle. Ethan's heart thundered. His body screamed to give in, to let the sound consume him. But deep inside, a spark of rage burned. He wasn't going to die for this forest. He wasn't going to be its next song. The whistle burrowed into Ethan's skull, sharp as knives, endless as thunder. His vision blurred, the forest twisting into a dizzying swirl of black and red. His nose poured blood, his teeth rattled. Sophie's hand stroked his hair, tender, intimate, wrong. Let go, Ethan, she whispered. It's so much easier if you just let it take you. The faceless thing loomed over them, its boneless fingers twitching, its head tilting as if in amusement. The chorus of the hanging corpses joined in, their sewn mouths tearing open with wet rips as blood bubbled from their lips. The clearing became a cathedral of whistles, every note rising in discord. Ethan's body convulsed. The voice in his head grew louder. Stay. Become whistle. For a heartbeat, he almost gave in. His lips parted. Air wheezed out. A whistle began to form, but then Claire's scream echoed in his memory, Mark's broken body, their laughter on the car ride here before everything went to hell. Number! With a roar, Ethan lunged. His hand closed around the hatchet Mark had dropped earlier, half buried in the dirt. He swung with every ounce of strength left in him. The blade smashed into Sophie's notebook. She shrieked, not in pain, but in rage, as the pages burst open, scattering into the night like torn feathers. The names bled into the air, the ink twisting into black smoke. The faceless figure staggered, its whistling faltering for the first time. Sophie clawed at him, her face twisted into something feral. "You don't understand. Without the book, it will take me." "Good," Ethan spat. He shoved her backward. She stumbled against the roots of the great pine. The faceless figure loomed, its head swiveling toward her. For the first time, Sophie looked afraid. "No," she whispered, shaking her head violently. "I gave you Mark. I gave you Claire. I brought him." She pointed at Ethan, her voice cracking. "Take him instead." The forest didn't listen. The faceless thing bent low, pressing its smooth visage to hers. She screamed, her voice muffled as her chest caved inward, her body trembling. The whistle poured out of her, shrill and piercing, until her throat tore open in a spray of blood. Ethan stumbled back, covering his ears, but the sound rattled through his bones. When it was over, Sophie's body dangled limply in the roots, her lips still twitching as if trying to form one last note. The faceless figure straightened, a low whistle exhaling from its blank face. And then it turned to Ethan. The fight Ethan staggered to his feet, gripping the hatchet with both hands. His body screamed with exhaustion, his lungs burned, but adrenaline surged through him. "I'm not yours," he growled. The faceless thing tilted its head. The whistle rose again, higher and sharper, cutting through his eardrums until blood spilled down his neck. His vision pulsed. The forest spun. He charged anyway. The hatchet buried itself in the figure's torso. It didn't flinch. Its boneless hand shot out, gripping his throat, lifting him off the ground like he weighed nothing. His legs kicked wildly. His lungs screamed for air. Black dots swarmed his vision. The faceless thing leaned closer, its smooth face pressed against his. The whistle burst into his skull. His lips trembled. Air forced its way out, shaping into the cursed tune. He felt his soul slipping, draining out through his mouth, through the whistle. Number, not me, not like this. With the last of his strength, Ethan jammed the hatchet upward, not into the figure, but into the tree itself. The whistling pine. The blade bit deep into the bark. A horrible groan echoed through the clearing, like the forest itself was screaming. The symbols carved into the trunk glowed red, then split open. Thick, black sap poured from the wound, sap that smelled of rot and blood. The faceless thing recoiled, its grip loosening. The chorus of hanging corpses wailed, their bodies thrashing violently as if in agony. Ethan ripped the hatchet free and struck again, and again. Splinters flew. Black sap splattered across his face, burning his skin. The whistle grew frantic, broken, as the tree shuddered like a dying beast. The faceless thing let out one final ear-splitting shriek before collapsing into the dirt, its body dissolving into ash. The corpses above went still, and the forest was silent. For the first time since they'd arrived, truly silent. Escape. Ethan collapsed beside the tree, his chest heaving, blood dripping from his ears, his arms trembling too badly to hold the hatchet. The silence pressed heavy on him, but it wasn't oppressive anymore. It was empty. He didn't know how long he lay there, minutes, hours. Time meant nothing. Eventually, dawn broke. When he opened his eyes, the whistling pine was gone. The clearing was just a normal patch of woods. No bodies, no blood, no Sophie, no faceless thing. The forest looked ordinary, peaceful even. Ethan stumbled to his feet, every muscle screaming. He walked one step, another, and another. By midday, he found the road. A passing truck stopped, the driver wide-eyed at the sight of him. Shirt torn, face streaked with dried blood, eyes hollow. Ethan climbed in without a word. When the driver asked what happened, Ethan just stared out the window, the whistle still faint in his mind, echoing in the silence. He didn't answer. Epilogue. Weeks later, Ethan sat in his apartment, the world outside bustling with normal life. The TV played softly, his phone buzzed with messages from worried relatives, but he barely noticed. He sat at his desk, a notebook in front of him. The page was blank. His hand trembled as he picked up the pen. Slowly, carefully, he wrote, Claire, Mark, Sophie, Ethan. He stared at his own name. For a long time, he didn't move. Then, almost against his will, he drew a line through it. From the kitchen window, the faint sound of whistling drifted in on the wind.